Welcome to the Learning Evolution Podcast. This show is for people who are seeking to learn, teach, and train better. On this show, we are looking at current news and events, sharing actionable ways to help others in improving their performance, and featuring interviews with a variety of guests who are at the forefront of learning innovation. I'm your host, Adam McDaniel. For those new to the show, I've worked in people development for more than 15 years at multiple companies from startup all the way to Fortune 20. And I have experience working in multiple roles from training delivery, instructional design, project management, leadership, learning technology, and more than that. In my younger years, I was a student that struggled a lot at traditional school. And then I found my love of learning as an adult. And for years, I have been trying to affect change within my spheres of influence in those jobs at the companies I've worked at. And I've been trying to improve the efficiency of at-work training, a lot of times having to go outside of the rules and the boundaries of what I was supposed to do, and found that a lot of times the effective things that I did were in opposition to the things I was supposed to be doing. I started this podcast at the start of 2021, and it was originally called Apex Mind. At that time, that name gave me unique branding, as well as the representation of that name was that it meant to be the best at what you do and to help others to be the best at what they do. In the episodes that we've published so far, which we've published 50 episodes already, we've covered topics from virtual training to onboarding, influencing senior leaders, to supporting top performers, and much, much more. And we've had 16 guests interviewed on the show so far. We've had gamification expert Yukai Chow, storytelling guru Matthew Dix, and so many more from authors, business leaders, and training experts. This rebrand of the show from Apex Mind to Learning Evolution really just helps to align us with our mission and makes it more clear what the show has to offer. Really, this show is about helping you to get better at making other people better. Whether you are a business leader, you run your own business, small business owner, anybody who teaches or trains others, even folks who work in formal teaching or training roles, the things that we share on this show, whether it be the interviews with the guests that we have or the actionable insight episodes that help you to have frameworks that you can go and apply at your place of business or in your life, this show will help you to make other people better. We are keeping this new name of the show on the same RSS feed, so if you're already subscribed to the old show, you'll find it in the same place, although you'll have the new name and some other changes that you'll see along with it. But we wanted to make sure we kept it easy for those who were subscribed to find the new show. But to designate where this change is happening here on this episode number 50, we're also going to be rebranding it as season 2, more or less, even though we didn't really take time off between seasons 1 and 2, just to make it easier to see where the switchover happened. This show, like I said, is now called Learning Evolution. Evolution tends to describe when things change over time. And with evolution, anything that evolves, generally, the things that work or are positive are kept or enhanced, and the things that are not working or they're redundant or they're out of date are discarded or changed. And that's really what learning, and by learning I mean both the way that people learn and the way that people teach or train others. Those things need to evolve, and they have been evolving, but not at the pace that they should be, given the rapid rate of change that we've seen in the last 20 or 30 years with technology and in so many other industries. It's really painful to see learning and teaching done in old ways when it doesn't need to be. And we need to cast away the ineffective ways of teaching and learning. How many times have you seen a learning environment, whether it be in a school, primary school, or collegiate environment, or maybe it's in a workplace or any other place where learning is happening, where it's very similar to schools of the past And I mean, you might see things that represent schools of the 1950s or the 1800s. We're going to talk in a future episode about some of that evolution of schooling that really was cemented in parts of Europe in the mid 1800s. And it's really amazing how almost 200 years later, a lot of things haven't changed. And, you have lectures that are more or less information dumps. A lot of times learners are expected to sit and absorb rather than be active participants. There's very little application in a lot of learning. It's intended to be knowledge or information transfer rather than helping people to go do things. And then a lot of times there's very little technology being integrated, or there are times where technology is being integrated in very ineffective ways. So, all those things are keeping learning held back. And that's why I think a lot of people have very bad associations with learning and with what learning is. They had a bad experience in school, like I did, where they didn't feel like they were learning a lot. They didn't feel like they were growing a lot. They didn't feel like it was really appealing to the things that they wanted and needed. And then when they've got to be adults, whether it be things in their workplace, or maybe they're taking some sort of certification or accreditation in some context, it represented that same thing. They went to a classroom, whether it is in person or it is virtual, and they listened to someone talk at them, and then they had to go pass a test. And then after all that was over, they went and they did the real learning after that fact by getting out and talking to people and trying things and maybe looking things up in less formal sources online. Maybe they watched a few YouTube videos or listened to a podcast on the subject. And so learning professionals, whether they be in the academic realm or in the professional realm, and really we don't speak a lot to like children's learning here, because I know teaching young children is a little bit different. So we don't really speak to that directly on here. We're mostly talking about teaching adults. And it just represents that far too much. And so, even if we take away teaching or training and we talk about learning and the way that you've learned in the past or the way you've seen people learn, there are too many times where people feel like they have to learn everything about a subject. For those on video, you can see I have a lot of books in the background. I am a big reader, and I think reading is great, but you don't have to read extensive amount of books to learn about a subject. Sometimes you might want to if it's something you want to dive into, but that's not as necessary in every situation as it was in the past. You don't have to go get a degree or a certification in something to start doing something in an area like you did in the past. Now, those things certainly have their place. I'm not suggesting that nobody should do them, but they aren't the requirement as often as they used to be, and taking job posting requirements out of this. But so many people perform well in this world. And you could see this from the people who go start businesses or startups that may not have a formal degree, or just people who are performing well in any capacity of life. You don't always have to have those. And that's why we call this learning evolution. I had a post on LinkedIn several weeks ago and talked about a learning revolution. And that was something I was thinking about for the podcast name. And fortunately, a connection of mine, and in fact, he was a recent interview guest named Matt Smith, called me out on it and talking about how we don't want to get rid of everything. And generally, when you think of a revolution, that is to discard whatever was there before and to build something new. And so I didn't, after Matt called me out on that, I thought that was a really good perspective. And certainly I don't want to take away everything that we've been doing before. Reading books, taking courses, getting degrees, those things have their place in certain situations, and we don't want to get rid of them. But we also need to evolve, and we need to change certain things in order for them to be future thinking, not only to deal with the technological change that's happening and the rapid rate of just change of society and most job roles that's happening faster than it ever has in human history, but also to appeal to the younger generation. And we look at Generation Z and whatever the generation that's coming after them. I don't know if they'll be called Alpha or whatnot, but the young kids that were raised on technology from the time of being children, they are used to this new way of learning. They are used to going and talking with their friends in a Discord channel and going and listening to a podcast or a YouTube channel and going and trying things and building their own worlds in Minecraft, so to speak. I think that creativity, that curiosity, that exploration, those are really parts of it. And, really the world's changing at a pace that none of us are going to be able to keep up with. I really firmly believe that in the future, there will be less of the experts that we were used to in the past, and more people will have to be, you'll have to be flexible, and you'll have to have range, to quote the amazing book from David Epstein. You'll have to have range, and you'll have to be a generalist in order to succeed. And I think a lot of people are going to have to do that, while we'll still have to have specialists in certain areas. We're still going to have pilots and surgeons and engineers and certain people that specialize in certain areas. But a lot of the rest of us are going to have to be flexible, and we're going to have to learn new things. And, I can't be like my grandfather's generation, where he worked one job from the time he was in his 20s until the time he retired. That just isn't the world we live in anymore. And we have to be used to pivoting, learning new things, learning them quickly, adapting, and implementing. So, going back to that theme, we have to evolve. We have to evolve our learning, and we have to evolve the way that we teach and train others. We have to leverage technology, new platforms for learning. And I'm not talking about a specific vendor or there's no one size fits all platform. And I'm sorry if there's anyone listening to the show that, you run a platform company. I'm sure some of your platforms are great, but there is no one solution for this. It's going to be solutions for different companies, different sizes of companies, different situations. And, whether it be things like looking things up on the internet, podcasts, videos, like I said before, YouTube, going to cohorts, people learn really well from each other, discussion groups, VR, AR, metaverse, things that are still really young that, once again, none of these are the one solution, but they're all going to play a part in the future of learning. For those that have been listening to the show for a while, first off, you're going to continue to hear the things that have been bringing you back to the show. We're going to continue to have interviews with experts every Monday, have a lot of really cool interviews. In fact, I have most of the Q4 planned out already, and there's going to be some exciting people, still folks that work in various capacities of learning and teaching industry, and then other folks as well, because I think it's important that we get outside of our silos and we don't just talk to people that do similar jobs to us. We have to hear from people that are at the forefront of learning in a lot of different capacities, and there's a lot we can learn from them. In fact, I think some of the most downloaded episodes of the show so far have been people that are a little bit outside of, they don't work at a company in a traditional L&D role. And those have been some of the most popular episodes. And I'm excited to bring in more guests like that, because I think we all need to hear different perspectives, and we need to really stretch our ideas of what teaching, training, learning, performance, what those things can be. So expect that there's going to be more variety of guests, but it's still going to all be about learning. It's going to be about the evolution of learning, the forefront, how to be future thinking, and really what that's going to be going forward. We're also going to still have Thursday episodes like this one that are typically going to feature actionable frameworks that you can apply in your workplace and life. This episode here was the launch of the new show, kind of setting the stage for what to expect. Starting next Thursday and all the Thursdays after, just like we've had in these previous weeks, shorter episodes focused on a simple framework on a certain topic that you can take and you can implement into your work. There are going to be a few more changes as well, not just the things you've seen today, the more superficial things that we've already talked about, like the title, and you've probably seen the new cover of the episode and so on. But also, we did finally start our YouTube channel. I know for those who've been listening for a long time, it's something I've been talking about a while, and there were some technical challenges with it. Part of it is I got a new technology platform to use here. Zoom was very inconsistent, and now I'm using another platform for it. So this might allow for, if there's desire from the audience and if schedules can line up, this new platform can actually allow for like live interaction with audience. So if that's something we decide to do in the future, we might do live streams or live engagements, but that's not really in the plans for just yet. But we have YouTube. This episode's the first one on there. I will upload some back episodes. At least I can promise you that I'll upload all of the interviews, because I know some people prefer this kind of content on YouTube versus a podcast. Plus, you might want to see what some of the beautiful guests look like. So we'll have that up there as soon as I can. Any of the other episodes, because it's kind of a time-intensive thing, you all are going to have to let me know if you want some of the single topic episodes uploaded. A lot of those don't have video, so they would be just audio-only episodes on YouTube. I can do it if you want, but you got to tell me, because I'm not going to spend the time doing it unless there's demand for it. Also, with the video, and this is probably going to be a going forward thing, but it'll allow us to have shorter clips. Shorter clips are harder with audio, but with video, you can do shorter, more digestible clips. It might make it easier for you all to share it with other people, or for people who maybe don't like long form podcast or YouTube conversations. They might be a little bit more receptive to something that's, a 2 or 3 minute clip that has a very specific section of an episode. So that'll be something coming soon as well. And then other platforms, it just allows us to get into more places, because, right now we're only in a few places. Like I said, the interviews, we're going to have a wide variety of guests. Like I said, I have 5 people lined up already. Most of Q4 is booked. And so I'm quite excited to introduce some of the folks that we'll have on the show to all of you. And then some other things that we're working on. This is stuff that I hope to have by end of year, but just setting expectations, hoping to have transcriptions of episodes for folks that maybe aren't, have limitations with audio, that you'll have text transcriptions of the episodes. We are going to update the website to feature more podcast information to make it a little bit more searchable for you. Right now, it's all just through our hosting platform, Anchor. So just a little bit more information on the website. Some resources that have been asked for by certain people, whether it be folks on social media or people that I've interacted with one-on-one, that just take some of the frameworks we've talked about on some of the episodes and make a little bit more actionable templates around it. So those are some things I'm working on in the background as well. Also working on getting a newsletter going. I don't want to overload with content, but at least having something that kind of summarizes some of the things that we talk about that might come once a week. More to come on that. And then the goal is, at least by Q1, to have some sort of community going that I can promise you will be moderated to prevent solicitation. But the community is supposed to be somewhere that people can learn and engage with each other on specific topics, whether it be stakeholder management or implementation of technology, or whatever the case is. We can even make it by topic, but I want to have a space where people can learn from each other without solicitation. And I really stress that last thing, because I don't know about you all, but when I'm in a lot of LinkedIn groups or Facebook groups or just various groups, a lot of times the quality content gets flooded out by a bunch of junk and spam and so on. So I want to have something that's a little bit more actionable, where people can actually help each other, ask questions. Hey, have you encountered this situation? So on. So that's something I'm working on too, but I am a one-man operation, so trying to figure out how I can balance all this with my other life needs as well. But I'm very excited for what's coming. Thank you all, for everybody who's been supporting, especially I know I have some people that have been listening from the beginning. Thank you all for listening. This has been a lot of work, doing this stuff and not making money on it is a lot of work. But I'm doing it because I'm passionate about it, and I'm really trying to drive change. And so for those of you that have been listening and supporting and commenting and engaging, that's what's been keeping me going. And seeing the listener count go up and having more people jump on this journey with me, it's been exciting. And I'm very excited for what the future is going to bring with this as well. So just thank you, everybody who's been supporting. And if you are new, welcome. Thank you also for checking us out. If you want to go back and check out old episodes, feel free. Lots of cool interviews, lots of cool topics. Go do that. But we're just happy you're here. So thanks a lot for coming and checking us out. But thank you all for being here once again. Don't forget to share the show. If you will do that, we'll be here back on Monday with another interview. This is a guest that has a lot of importance to me, someone who was a mentor to me at a very early stage in my career. And this person has gone on to be a very senior leader in a very large organization. I'm very happy to bring her to the show. She's a great person to talk to. She's a great leader and a great mind on learning. So I'm glad that she can be our first interview guest with the Learning Evolution podcast. So she'll be here on Monday. That's actually the 31st. So that'll be the Halloween day right there. So until then, go and help someone to be better than they were yesterday. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you.